welcome back to the Beach Bum Bookworm. I am Tiffany. I'm so glad y'all found me today. My channel is all about cozy mysteries and romance, and today I'm doing my June romance wrap-up. I love doing the wrap-up videos because I just get to talk about the books that I read, what I liked, what I didn't. It's just, I like to talk. So let's get into it. Let me know what your favorites of this month were, if you've read any of these, anything else that you want to talk about down there in the comments, this place, do it. Don't forget on your way down to comment to stop and hit that subscription and the notification bell because that's going to tell you when I put out new videos each and every single week. All right, let's get to it. In 3, 2, 1, go! So most of these in this wrap up are part of my SAS list. There might be a couple that aren't, but I am really knocking out this SAS list. If you don't know what the SAS list is, it is my Serious About Series list. I have so many going that Elizabeth from Lizzie Faye Loves Books made this awesome challenge. And if not, I owe all of my progress on these series to her. It's amazing, amazing, amazing. I will put her in the link below. So most of these books are on that list. So you made a list of 21 books because it's 2021. Or 21 series, sorry, not 21 books, 21 series that you want to make some progress in. I could do it like 8 times over. And actually, I'm getting ready to make a new list of 20 because I am knocking it out of the ballpark, if I say so myself. All right, so the first one I read was One Night Rodeo. It is right here. This is part of the Blacktop Cowboy series by Lorelei James. I absolutely love this series. Let me just say from the very beginning, this series is super spicy. Like as far as flames on my flame meter that goes to 5, this would be like a 8. So just so you know that. And that's pretty much all of her books. So if that's not your thing, be warned, okay? So in this one, we finally get Celia's story. I feel like we've known Celia for a while. I've been waiting on her story because she has such a fiery attitude that I couldn't wait to see what happens with her. So she and Kyle, who we also known and we've known very well because he was a main part of another book, if you've read any in this series. Kyle is a love him and leave him womanizer. He is self-proclaimed love him and leave him womanizer, just so you know. So him and Celia have known each other since childhood. They're always butting heads, but it's always like other people have always like, oh, it's just because y'all love each other. And they're like, no, you know. So it's one of those things. But they've always remained close. They've always remained in contact. And they get drunk in Vegas and they get married. So Celia demands the very next morning, I want a prenup, or not prenup, I want an annulment. And Kyle tries to buy himself some time because he does not want an annulment. He does believe that they are meant to be together. So coincidentally, he inherits some property from his father who he's never known. So he never knew who his father was, but he inherited this piece of land from his father who just passed away. And so he kind of gets Celia on this, well, can you help me with ranching? Because Celia is always grown up on a ranch. She knows what she's doing and Kyle doesn't. So he's like, well, help me on my ranch for 6 months and then I'll give you money for school and an annulment. Because he's hoping by this point she'll fall in love with him. I really loved this book. I liked Kyle before. I liked Celia before, but this is the one thing I'll say. I gave it 4 big stars. The only thing that I knocked off for was Kyle was at points over the top cheesy. I know it's a romance, and it was still that over the top cheesy that I was rolling my eyes, and so I had to knock it down just a couple points. 1 point, 1 star. Other than that, it was phenomenal. And I know I mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it one more time. Spicy. If you don't want your romances spicy, this is not the series, not the author for you. She is off the charts. My meter goes to 5 and she's like over here. Okay? All right. The next one was Hope Flames. It is right here. This is by J.C. Burton. It is the first book in the Hope series on my SAS list. I had read a couple books from the Hope series, just not number one, so I wanted to go back and read the first one. I love J.C. Burton, but maybe it's just the series in general, I don't know, but this book was definitely blah. I had to go back and look at the synopsis to even remember what happened in this book and the characters, because they were just that non-memorable, I guess. So Emma is a veterinarian. She returns to her hometown, and Luke is a police officer. They get together. I don't really have much to say about it. It was cute. I love small town romances. This was definitely a small town romances. There's dogs in it. So it was adorable, but it was just very lackluster and That's all I get. I gave it 3 stars, so it wasn't a bad book by any means. The next one I read was The Last. It is right here. This is the 3rd book on the List series by Tanya Finsky. I have read number 1. This is a part of my SAS list. I read number 1. I can't find number 2, so I read number 3. This one, so the main characters, the guy comes to her, they were friends in college, and they meet back up, and he wants a marriage of convenience. He doesn't want anything love involved, and he just, I'm not judging whether that's right or wrong to have this marriage of convenience and what works for them, and whether people should do that or not. I don't have any opinion on how people want to live their lives as long as it's consensual. Go be happy, do you. I didn't find it romantic, and I read romance books for the romance, and I just think he propositions her for a loveless romance isn't romantic. So I didn't really enjoy it. I gave it 2.5 stars. I'll round it up to 3 because I thought the writing was great. I think she's a very talented writer. It was just that aspect of it. But it clouded the whole book. I read romance for romance purposes. So I'm sure there's people that enjoyed it. So again, another one that I found, it is the 5th book in the Gold Valley series, which is by Macy Yates. This is a Western series. It's called Unbroken Cowboy. It is right here. This is on my SAS list. And what I think I've come to the conclusion of is that some of these, when I created this SAS list, I tried to look back at my oldest series I wasn't caught up in, and I just feel like maybe some of my preferences have changed. It was not a horrible book, and Macy Yates is a very talented writer, and I have loved some of her books. This one there was nothing wrong with it. It was, again, kind of blah. I don't really remember the characters. I just read it a few weeks ago, so very unmemorable. Characters are B and Dane. It's another small town romance. He's a bull rider, which I do love. There you go. I don't have much more to say about it. The next one is on my SAS list. This is the Men of Ink series. I actually am digging this series. So this is 2.75. It is called Rebound. It is right here. I am not a big novella person. I think novellas, by the time I'm invested in the characters, it's over, and I don't like that. I need more. I do think novellas can work, and in this series they've worked because we had a novella that was the characters had already had a full book. You saw their HEA. The novella was them as an update, and I thought that was a brilliant idea. I loved that. If authors would do more of that, and it's not like they need my permission to do however they wanted write their books. I'm just saying for me that would work better. So this one is not that. We are seeing the first part, a new couple. Now we knew the guy, but we're seeing the guy meet somebody, and I thought that the writing was great. I thought that the story was great, but by the time I was invested in it, again, it was ending, and I just don't prefer novellas, me. This one is Sam's story. So Sam, he had an ongoing like benefits relationship with Izzy, who is the only sister in the Gallows clan, and he had feelings for her. She never had feelings for him. It was just sex for her, and she finally meets her match, and Sam is really bummed, and he is in New Orleans, and he is drowning his sorrows in a bar, and he meets Fiona, and they are instantly attracted to each other, and Shell Bliss does what she does best. She is a phenomenal writer. I gave this 3 stars. What I hope for this is that we get a full-length book of Sam and Fiona, so I can feel like these characters really, really were in love. That's what I want. The next series I read was Puckaholic. It is right here. This is the 3rd book in the Mad Mother Puckers series, which is a hockey romance. And if you've watched my channel at all, you know I am a huge fan of hockey. I say that by itself because I just mean hockey. I am a obsessive hockey fan, and so it translates into the books I read. I love hockey romances. So this is by Lily Valente. I have read several books in this series. Some I've loved, some I haven't loved. This one I loved. 4 stars. So in this one, we have Diana and Tanner, and they end up sharing a place together, and Diana is the teammate sister. So of course Tanner is a NHL player, and one of his teammates is Diana, and him are brother and sister. So Diana and him become roommates. There is a potbelly pig in this. The thing I loved about this is, man, can Lily Valente write banter and chemistry. It was phenomenal. And there is the cutest scene so Tanner has a legit phobia of mannequins, and you get a story of how that comes about, and you can really, really empathize with how that would happen. And there's this really adorable scene where she helps him work through it, and the two of them together, it was so cute. So cute. 4 stars, absolutely loved it. So the next one I read was Hillbilly Rockstar. It is right here. This is number 6 in the Blacktop Cowboy series by Lorelei James. Again, it's part of my SAS list, so that's why you're seeing multiple books from the same series. I loved it. This might have been my favorite of the series because... So in this one, we have, I think his name is Devin. I'm sorry, I did not write down the names. We have met Devin, at least had little snippets of him. He is from originally the area where this whole series takes place, but he has become a famous country singer, and he is being stalked, and people are trying to hurt him and vandalize his property and different things, and he needs security. Enter in our heroine. I believe her name is Liberty. I did not write down their names, but I'm pretty sure it was Liberty. And the reason that this might have been my favorite is because Lorelei James knows how to write romance. There's no doubt about that. But the character of Liberty she was a bad mamma jamma, and I loved it. I mean, I just love the fact that she was, the female was ex-military. She was I don't want to use profanity, so she was a bad mamma jamma, and I loved her. And at first, what I really liked was Devin's transformation of how he saw her, because at first she is designed as his security detail, and he doesn't want a woman protecting him and blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, oh, we can't let people know that you're my security, so you need to be more girly or more womanly, and whatever his concept of that is, because people aren't going to think that you're my girlfriend or you're my PR if you look this not girly. I don't know what that entails in his mind, but he really changes. So it sounds like he's a real jerk, and that's not how it ends up. I promise you. And that's what I loved. And that's why it was my favorite, because he really comes around to embracing this woman for who she is. And I Loved it. I'm giving it 5 stars, and I do not give 5 stars out lightly. It was so good. I know I said this about the last one, but I'm saying it again, so just so it's out there. Lorelai James writes steamy, steamy, steamy. If you are not into that, don't read her books. The next one I read was Resist Me. This is the 3rd book in the Men of Ink series. So, Shel Bliss again. Loved this one. We get to see Izzy's full story. So, I said that the last book, 2.75, is Sam. So, Sam was in love with Izzy. They had a benefits relationship. Izzy met our hero in this, James. They had a novella. This is their full story. That's why I'm still hoping that Sam gets his full story. I was so glad to see that we got that, because I need that to know that there is actually a love there, as opposed to what I feel like you only get novellas. Loved it. I love those two. I feel like James is the only person that is right for Izzy, because she is another bad mama jamma woman character. I love her. She is sass and vinegar and amazing. So independent. I absolutely love her. James is an undercover cop, and so at one point Sam brings her to, and they call him Flash. Sam is often referred to as Flash. That's his nickname. He brings her to this biker club, and she gets herself into a pretty sticky situation at this biker club, and her brother is undercover there at the biker club. He has been for a couple of years. His name is Thomas. He is one of the Gallows, of course, and James is his friend who's also undercover, and he asked James to get Izzy out of this situation and back to safety. And he does not know that they had had this brief encounter already. And so he basically throws them together, and there you go. You get their story. It was amazing. I gave it 4 stars. Shel Bliss is another pretty steamy romance author. The next book I read was called A Very Merry Hockey Holiday. It is right here. This is number 8 in the Nashville Assassin series, also on my SAS list. This is by Tony Aleo, and I wish more authors did this. If there are any romance authors or anybody that's watching this have dialogue with romance authors, tell them to do this. So this book was a holiday romance, but it was just updates on every single couple that we had previously in the series. Just what they're up to, what they're doing. 5 stars. I recommend for any author to do this. I absolutely loved it. Loved it. The next book I read was Always Loving You. It is right here. This is the 6th book in the Danvers series by Sydney Landon, and it is part of my SAS list. Although this one wasn't one of my favorites, I love this series. So I gave this 3.5 stars. So when I say it wasn't one of my favorites, it's that the other ones are like 4.5 star books. So I still really enjoyed this. This was Ava and Mac's story. So Ava is a sister to one of the main characters and to 2 main characters in the Danvers series already. So we knew her. She has had a very traumatic experience in her past that has shaped where she is right now in her relationships with romantic relationships. And Mac has known Ava since they were very young, has been in love with her, and tried to get her to come around to have a relationship with him. Although she's been in love with him, she can't get past what's happened. She hasn't moved to the point where she can be in a romantic relationship with somebody. And so this is their story, because Mac finally says, okay, I don't think she's going to come around. He doesn't know that she's in love with him. He just thinks that she doesn't want anything more than friends. He doesn't realize still all of the magnitude of what she's dealing with. So he says, you know what? I feel like for my own health and happiness. I need to move on. So he starts dating this other woman. And this is the first time that she knows that he's been with women, but this is the first time she sees them start to have a relationship with another woman. And she's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I thought he was always going to be there. I'm in love with him. I got to start working through this stuff so I can be with him. And this is their story. There is a part in this book that is not about these two. It is about one of the other characters. She is getting ready to have a child, and holy moly was I laughing out loud. It was really, really funny. The author did a great job with that. Again, 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. The thing was, I thought that there were points where this was too cheesy for me. I know it's a romance book. I get that, but they can be over the top cheesy. And there were points where this one was eye rolling. Just, yeah, too much for me. So that's where I knocked it down on the stars. All right, so the next one I read was Rules of Contact right here. This is part of the Play-by-Play series. It is number 12 by J.C. Burton. So I have two different series of J.C. Burton on my SAS list. I have the Hope Flames, which I talked about earlier, or the Hope series, which I talked about earlier, and the Play-by-Play series. So this one's number 12 in that series. I love this series. This is about Flynn and Amelia, and Flynn is a place for the NFL, but he also is really into food, and he owns a successful restaurant that Amelia cooks at. So that is where their story starts, in the restaurant. I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. It wasn't one of my favorites in this series, but again, 3.5 stars. So it was really, really good. And I don't have anything to say about why it didn't get higher, except that I thought it was good. The next one I read was Pucked Up Love. It is right here. This is by Lily Valente. It is the 5th book in the Mad Mother Pucker series. I gave this 3 stars. I liked it, didn't love it, don't have much to say about it. The stuff the reasons I gave it 3 stars. So in this one we have Will and Haley, and Will in his past was really into being a dominant, and Haley overhears he proposes to Haley, and he's really in love with Haley. But Haley hears this conversation about how you're never going to be happy because you're not able to play this dominant role, because he never told her that he was into anything like that. And so she feels like she can't say yes to his proposal. They break up because she doesn't feel like she can be what he needs or wants. And so she decides to explore being in that kind of dynamic, and she puts out a personal ad, and lo and behold, our hockey player Will answers the personal ad because he just can't help himself. And he realizes that Curious Cat, that's what she writes her name as, is Haley. And so it's kind of a second chance relationship. I gave it 3 stars. And again, the reasons that I gave it 3 stars and didn't love it is written very well. I love this series. I'm just not necessarily into that trope. If you are, you'll love it. The thing I did like about it that I will say is that although I don't read a lot of dom and sub trope, I thought that this one was better than some of the ones I have read, because there was still what I would consider respect between in the way that he treated her. It's just not my thing. If it's your thing, go for it. The next book I read was Racked and Stacked. It is right here. This is the 9th book in the Blacktop Cowboy series by Lorelei James. This one is Larissa and Ike, and they are, again, 2 people that are always at each other's throats, but people always think there's this underlying desire to be with each other, and those people were right. So Larissa is trying to fix some pipes or something underneath her house like that. There's ice. She falls and she badly breaks her arm. So she is very, she needs somebody to help her in recovery because at this point she's not able to use her right arm at all. And she is staying with her brothers. And Ike is like, no, your brothers aren't really taking care of you. Well, you're going to come stay with me. And that's how their relationship starts. I gave it 3.5 stars. Nothing wrong with it. It just wasn't my favorite pair up. The next one I read was Uncover Me. It is right here. This is the 4th book in the Men of Ink series by Shel Bliss. This one was my least favorite of the series, and let me tell you why. So this is Thomas. I told you Thomas was an undercover cop. He's been undercover for a while, and this is his story with Roxy, so Angel, let's just say Angel, and you'll understand when you read further on. So this was his story with Angel, and what caused it to be lower for me is that they already knew each other when the book met, so there wasn't this like us getting to see them meet and how their relationship goes from a cute meet to love. And I want that in my romances. That's just a personal preference. That's the only reason that this was my least favorite, because I felt like that was a huge missing piece for me. So I give it 3 stars. That was the last book I read of the month. I loved my reading month. It was fabulous overall. Let me know about your reading month. And until next time, may all your future reads be 5 stars. Bye, everyone.